Hi everyone, and warm welcome to the Clean Air Tour. My name is Michaela Sorle, and I will be your host throughout this event. We have a fully packed and exciting agenda for you, with top speakers from the industry. Together, we will cover how to improve working conditions in factories, how to reduce toxic emissions into the air, as well as showing off some of the latest innovations, like IoT-enabled mobility solutions and nanofilters. But we have more. We're also inviting you to take part in our local chat rooms after the session, where Nederman representatives will be conducting group discussions and one-on-one talks. You will be able to ask all the questions that matter to you, be it anything regarding rules and regulations, welding solutions, factory optimization, or simply how to get started. This Nederman-hosted event will bring you up to speed on all there is to know on how to protect people, our planet, and the production in the most optimal way. So once again, a warm welcome to this first part of the Clean Air Tour. Now I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Hans Dahlén, who is head of the division Extraction and Filtration Technology at Nederman. Hans will take us through the market, why clean air is important, how we can act more sustainable, protect the environment, and the mission that we all share for the future, a smarter, healthier, and safer work environment. Hans, take a deep breath of fresh air. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Welcome to the Clean Air Tour. It's time to look at air filtration in a new way. No matter if you're a multinational company or family-owned, solutions are available to protect your employees, your production, and our common planet. My name is Hans Dahlén. I'm head of Nederman's Extraction and Filtration Technology division. Clean air is of great importance to all of us, in Europe, in America, and in Asia, as private persons, as employers, employees, and as companies. Many of us consider clean air to be free and an infinite product, but that's not the reality. There's a clear link between bad air and Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and similar dementia diseases. Air pollution is the fourth most common cause of death. Some rightly call polluted and bad air the new tobacco problem. The debate in media and by politicians is today dominated by climate change and CO2. And it's a very important topic and truly a global challenge. But equally important is the environment and the pollution in our everyday surroundings and facilities. As companies, we have an important role to play. More than 90% of the world's population lives in areas with bad air. This contributes to a lower quality of life and major costs that must be borne by society one way or another. Globally poor air quality is estimated to account for more than 8 million premature deaths per year. We have similar challenges in all parts of the world, and the challenge is increasing. A growing population and rising standards of living are leading to more industrial production and potentially larger amounts of emission and air pollution. The sources of emissions vary, but within many areas, industrial production is one of the most important pollutant and risk for personal health. As an example, several studies conclude that lung cancer is 20 to 30% more frequent among welders. Using a mask might help the welder, but not his colleagues. The air has to be captured at the source and cleaned. The good news is that manufacturing and process industries does not have to contribute to bad air. A smart approach to factory air exists. I see a clear trend when talking to customers. Sustainability is a parameter fully in line with financial and production considerations. Governments are and will increasingly ask for monitoring and reporting of businesses' environmental impact to secure that you are in line with regulatory requirements. As we will hear today, many regulations are already in place and more will come. We have all sustainability demands to fulfill and be ahead of. Many of us are expected by our customers and by the financial market to follow national, regional, and UN directives. For example, the UN Global Compact. Bad air is not just a question about health and environment, it impacts your business directly. For example, bad air in the working environment create costly sick days. Non-performing filters not monitored in the right way create downtime. Dry dust is combustible and found in many industries, such as the wood, composite, and metalworking industries. If not collected in the right way, the dust can cause explosions and fire. 2018 alone, there were more than 250 reported factory fires and explosions related to combustible dust, and they resulted in many injuries and even fatalities. Being compliant with global combustible dust standards is critical. Ensuring that safety devices are active and properly maintained is important. Monitoring that enough airflow exists to avoid dust accumulation is essential to reduce the risk of fires and explosions. Managing your air quality is not only the right thing to do, it's simply good business. Being able to monitor and control filters every day and every minute can significantly reduce energy consumption, secure the safety of your company, and improve profitability. To be able to do this remotely is not only efficient, it gives peace of mind. The wording, "the solution to pollution is dilution," was used historically. But you and I live in a new time. The solutions and a smarter approach to factory air is available. The right filter media exists, IoT and digital transformation for clean air exists. Once again, welcome to the Nederman Clean Air World Tour. I hope you will get inspired to shape your clean air future by taking a smarter approach to factory air.
Renee, you're a long-time expert with combustible dust in Nederman, and you've done several live explosion tests with the Nederman FS filter. You're also a member of 2 working groups for combustible dust in DIN, the German Institute for Standardization. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
You're clearly an expert in this field. Would you say that combustible dust really is a major problem for many companies and industries? And if yes, how so?
Yes, combustible dust is definitely a major problem for many companies, industries, and processes because it has the potential to create a disaster. In best case, you will only be faced with an unplanned shutdown, but worst case could be loss of life or workers' injuries, destruction of plants and facilities, and loss of production, probably for several months. And today's modern industrial processes creates finer dust than previously, and the growing use of lightweight products such as aluminum or titanium or carbon fibers increases the risk of dust explosions. But, and this is the good message, combustible dust can be handled in a safe way. Many dust explosions happened in the past, could have been avoided, but the biggest risk is lack of awareness and underestimating of the risks.
Could you explain to us what combustible dust actually is and what it can imply?
Combustible dust is any fine material that has the ability to catch fire and explode when mixed with air. Combustible dust can be from most solid organic materials, such as grain, sugar, flour, or wood, for example. Also fine dust from other materials like rubber, plastics, pharmaceuticals, or some metals, especially the lightweight metals like aluminum, titanium, or magnesium, can be combustible. And most of these fine powders can form combustible clouds when mixed with air in the right concentrations. Therefore, every process that creates dust should be investigated whether the dust is combustible or not. And you also asked what it can imply. Many industries and many processes create or handle combustible dusts. And if these dusts are disturbed and under certain circumstances, it has a potential that a serious explosion can occur.
I can imagine that there are many rules and regulations in this area. Can you elaborate a bit on this?
Rules and regulations are handled differently all over the world. But the two most common regulations are the European directives, also known as ATEX directives, together with the standards, with the European standards, and the American system of NFPA standards. These regulations, both of them, are used in several countries over the world, sometimes plus local regulations. But for example, China has their own standards, but if you look a little bit deeper into them, they are based on European standards mostly. And there are also some international standards existing, for example, IEC standards or ISO standards, and also standards from insurance company like FM Global, for example, and these are used worldwide.
So, if I would be responsible for safety in my workplace, what key things in relation to combustible dust would I need to consider?
First, you need to find out whether your dust is combustible or not. If you are not sure about that, or if you do not know all dust properties, it's absolutely recommended to test the dust. There are several labs around the world who offer such a dust analysis, but if you do not know an appropriate lab, Nederman can give you a contact. Second, if your dust is combustible, you need to do a dust hazard analysis. If you do not have the competence, please hire an experienced consultant to support you. Third, as a result of this dust hazard analysis, you may recover hazardous areas in your plant. Together with a consultant, you should review the hazards and determine the next steps. And at least a key activity to provide a safer workplace is housekeeping. Housekeeping is an organizational measure and often not considered enough, but accumulations of dust on top of machinery, suspended beams, or dropped ceilings, for example, could be a hidden risk.
So, how do I know which solution to choose?
Based on the dust properties and on the result of your dust hazard analysis, a competent supplier will offer you a compliant system to minimize the risks to your workplace. He can also support you by asking relevant questions or by explaining you the different options you have so that you are able to choose the best solution for you. The right equipment for hazardous areas, for example, can be identified by the X marking. And an important measure you should always recognize is explosion isolation. Explosion isolation is a technical measure to reduce the consequences of an explosion and to avoid secondary explosions by stopping the propagation of flame and pressure to connected equipment or back to the workplace. And Nederman is serving several industries as a supplier for safety products and dust collection equipment. We have the experience, the knowledge, the process, and also the equipment for nearly all applications for combustible dust.
Thank you very much, René.
Thank you.
This leads us right to our next two interviews. First up, we have asked the client of Nederman's to join our session in order for us to learn more about how they are using the Nederman solution to create a smarter and more cost-efficient working environment. And directly after that, we will talk about rules and regulations and learn more about the latest developments within this field, as well as coupled health effects, which we need to monitor carefully going forward.
Hello, and warm welcome to Nederman's Clean Air Tour, Mr. Miguel Serrano from Alvi. First off, I would like to ask you a bit about your industry and some of the challenges related to clean air and dust collection in your company and industry.
So I will make a small introduction of the company, which is located mostly in Spain. We have 4 factories, 2 in the north of Spain, near Barcelona, and 2 more in the south, near Malaga. Probably you know the area, in Andalusia. And another one, the newest one, is in the US, in Florida. Okay, and we are producing a wide range of products. Mostly, every plant is specialized in some kind of products. The biggest one is here in the south, and we make melamine boards. We are able to press the melamine. We have also the facility to lacquer. We do a lot of lacquering of those boards, normally in high gloss and super matte. And then we make also worktops, kitchen worktops, normally involving HPL, CPL, and this kind of technologies. We do the lamination of the PET foils on top of the boards also. Okay, so that collection for us is very important because for some products like high gloss lacquer or lamination, to have dust is a problem for the quality. So when we develop our Lux range, which is very well known all over the world, and we are exporting to every country, almost every country in the world, we are doing such a quality because of the good dust extraction system we have in our factories, for sure. And normally we have many customers that demand very clean product at the end of the day. So we are supplying big customer in Germany, big customer in the UK, and big customer in Europe mainly that require very, very clean final products. So dust collection is important for the customer, for the quality, and also for our people, our employees. So I've been working for the company almost 20 years now. I remember 20 years ago that the places were full of dust. We produce also lacquering. We sanded the lacquer, and this fine dust was covering everything. People should wear masks in order not to breathe the dust coming from the sanding, and blah blah blah. Now is a very nice place to work in.
So what are the key considerations you take into account when selecting dust collection and filtration solutions?
We have we give a lot of power to into the decision to the efficiency, energy efficiency. So electricity is right now a very important cost in our industry. So normally is the consumption of electricity is much bigger in the dust collection system than in the machinery, the rest of the machinery. So for us to have a system that works efficiently, is a must. So that was the main reason why, because we choose Nederman for the new plant in the US. It's one of the keys. So, some in the past we were not aware of this factor because the energy was much cheaper, but now it's very, very important. The uptime is also a very big factor we take into account because efficiency uptime can make a system not work properly. So normally we have very good uptimes, but it's not always the case. It's not always the case with every producer of that collection system. So this is also another factor, and a new one, which is not new really, but we are considering more than before, is the ATEX explosion spaces. So there's a lot of new regulations, and we try to cover everything and to be ATEX compliant.
How important has these investments into clean air and dust collection been to your operations, and have you received any feedback from your employees?
Some new range of high-tech products like high gloss lacquer that would be impossible to produce without a proper dust collection system. So it's not the same to produce, I don't know, for example, kitchen cabinets. Kitchen cabinets is a much easier product to make, and the only difference will be at the end that the final product will be dirty, let's say, with some dust. But for some products like PET lamination of the lacquer, we will be unable to produce in the right manner without the new dust collection system, for sure. And as explained also before, the employees were suffering not very healthy condition in, I don't know, 20 or 15 years ago. So we focus a lot on giving the employees much better ambient to work.
At the Clean Air Tour that we're hosting now, Nederman is hosting, we are talking a lot about IoT, Internet of Things. How is Alvik planning to leverage this technology into your factories?
To be honest, right now we have many different dust collection systems, but we need to improve the situation with the connection. No, we don't have a lot of sensors in the system, so we don't have much information online about how the system are working in efficiency, uptime, etc. So we keep an eye directly with the maintenance guys and the supervisor and so on the dust collection system, but we need to go ahead with the integration and connectivity of the system to put more sensors for vibration, pressure drop in the system, etc. Not to depend so much on the eyes of the people. So this is a thing that we need to put into practice in the next few years.
Thank you so much. That was super interesting to hear, and we are so happy that you joined the show, and thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, we are back online with our next interview. This time we have Mr. Kevin Bampton from the British Occupational Hygiene Society online with us. So the first one up is, would you say that the health-related rules and regulations for the industry differs around the world? And if so, how?
Yes, so the protection of health in different parts of the world varies according to the availability of health care, the technical infrastructure within native businesses, and also the regulatory appetite of the particular countries. So obviously there's a high level of awareness in terms of health risk in a number of the more affluent countries. The expectation is a higher level of health standards across the board. And so public health and health awareness sort of raises the threshold. However, increasingly, the impact of internationalization globalization means that health standards are being pushed up across the board within workplaces. So the workplace is beginning to pull away from the national health standards that you find. In addition to this, there's an increasing emphasis on governments to ensure that they comply with the sustainability standards that the international community are promoting. And these are exemplified by the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN.
So how dangerous are these particles that you're mentioning really? For example, we talk about gases, metalwork, and fiber materials.
The human body wasn't designed to be exposed to the types of materials that we create within workspaces. So our natural defenses are designed for the things that we would naturally come across, so biological hazards rather than physical hazards. So take, for example, a very commonly occurring substance like silica. Silica occurs widely in nature, but not in the form of dust. And we haven't evolved for our bodies to be able to remove fine dust particles from our lungs. And dusts in particular constitute a major hazard because they are increasingly proven to be carcinogenic. In the UK, which is obviously one of the wealthiest countries in the world, we have 1.6 million people who are currently suffering from occupational illnesses. That is a staggering proportion of the working population. And it gives an indication of just what a huge economic and social burden health exposures in the workplace are.
I understand there are many techniques to protect yourself when working in dangerous environments. Are companies aware of these problems, and what are your best tips on how to protect the workers, and how does it relate to, for example, local rules and regulations?
So the best thing is, virtually every aspect of engineering and science, is to plan and design out risk. So before you even set up a plant, or before you install a piece of machinery, or before you sort of work out a workflow or a management system, or even a rota, to think about how you can avoid creating health risks. So elimination through design is the number one way to go. It's the most cost effective. However, the use of the hierarchy of controls, so using engineering, using administrative techniques, using planning in order to avoid health risk exposures, is always superior to reliance on personal protective equipment.
We have also heard that in the US, strict rules are coming, for example, regarding Chrome 6. Which other upcoming rules and regulations trends do you see around the world right now, for example, in Europe and US, Asia, and so forth?
So the development of a variety of techniques, particularly in the medical area of epidemiology, mean that we are better at identifying the relationship between sort of more and more chemicals and substances and their health risks. As we do that, and we find ourselves increasingly questioning the safety in terms of both levels of exposure, or indeed the safety of use at all of various substances. The international community is possibly slower in the adoption of standards than some of the regional regulators. So the international body that looks at carcinogens has a huge amount of work to do, and works at a slower rate than, for example, the European agencies which review safety. European Chemicals Agency has been looking carefully at a range of substances, including benzene, and recommending significant reductions in limits there. Other substances like formaldehyde already have recommendations in terms of restriction, but these are going to be reduced further. Some of the rarer metals, such as nickel, are in the process of being reduced. And as we do more and more high-tech development, as we're using more and more of these obscure minerals and metals, we'll find that the regulations for those will increase very, very quickly because the risk to the working population becomes higher.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's really interesting to hear.
It's a pleasure.
So we're back in the studio and we have a new guest with us, all the way from the US. Welcome, Travis Hanem.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You talk about clean air. Why should companies invest in new clean air technology?
Okay. Well, we think that clean air is an essential thing for creating a productive and healthy work environment. Most people, when they think about air pollution, they think about the air that they see outside. And you hear a lot about that in the media and you hear a lot about that in the news, but the air that we breathe every day is indoors. And so the emphasis on the quality and the cleanliness of the air inside is something that we believe is essential. It's a pretty obvious concept to think about, somebody that's creating smoke or fume and that it's a problem health-wise for them to inhale that when they're on the job. We think less about indoor air quality and what it does to our ability to do our job. There's a lot of research and studies out that now show how even small amounts of indoor air pollution impact our ability to think and be productive and to focus on the work that's in front of us. And when you think about the rest of an industrial factory, any dust that you're not collecting, any smoke or fume that you don't control properly, it's going to end up building up on the machinery and electronics and other things in the factory, causing them not to work as optimally as they could or they should. So that's why we really think that clean air, again, it's an essential piece of building a strong, successful business.
Could you describe some of these filtration technologies that are helping deliver cleaner and safer operations?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like the rest of the world, technology within the filtration industry is moving at a rapid pace. And so there are a lot of new technologies that are capable of delivering cleaner air and really in a more efficient and effective way. One of those technologies is something we call nanofiber technology, and it's a type of filtration media where we're able to provide higher levels of efficiency, meaning we can take more things out of the air in a more effective way. And this is technology that's extremely small. You can't see it with the naked eye. It's 500 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair. And we put that on the surface of a filter, and it's able to remove those harmful particulate that may even be in the air that we can't see that we're breathing right now. And what that enables us to do is in a welding environment, for example, where the byproducts of welding are all carcinogens or they can cause cancer, we're able to take more of that out of the air and reduce the exposure to the workers. So that's one of the great new technologies that's out there. And then really the next technology I think that's changing the industry is IoT technology. And whether you know it or not, you're probably walking around with IoT-enabled devices, our watches, our phones, our appliances, our cars, they're all IoT devices. And so the dust collection systems and the filters in your factories are really no different. They're going to use a series of sensors and devices to collect information about how it's working, how it's living, and it's going to enable us or the technology to provide suggestions on how to improve it or alert you when there's a problem. And closely aligned to that are the sensors that we're actually using to measure the performance of our equipment. Sensors now they're more powerful, they're less expensive, and capable of doing a lot more things than we ever have in the past. So it can really bring a lot of life to the filtration systems and really let us look at it in a different way.
How do these technologies improve workers' protection?
So for any filtration system, that's really the idea there is to provide improved or to really protect the workers from those indoor air pollutants. So with the nanofiber technology, we're able to, again, remove more of the particulate that is harmful to the workers. And maybe the best example is a welder. You know, he's welding, he's constantly generating smoke, and if we're able to capture that and then remove those things more efficiently from the area, it's certainly going to offer him additional protection. Nanofiber filtration as well extends the life of the filters. So they're having to change the filters less often. So just like when you change a filter on a vacuum cleaner or something like that at your house, it's a dusty process. So when you have to do that less, it protects the worker from that exposure. With the IoT technology, it's kind of that old adage that if you don't measure something, it never changes. And with our ability and the sensors that we can incorporate into the dust collector systems, we're able to measure things that we never have before, or measure things where maybe the maintenance department was unable to measure on a consistent or an effective way. So all of that works to the actual system working more optimally. And if it does work as it was designed, it will offer greater protection to the workers.
Compliance with air quality and combustible regulations is challenging for many companies. Can these technologies help with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the technologies that we mentioned, the nanofiber technology, the IoT technology, all of them will contribute to a more compliant operation. Again, so as workers are exposed to more and more things, and as factories change and work with different materials, the air quality regulations are constantly changing. And so the nanofiber technology, again, being very efficient, is going to remove more of those things in a more effective way. So that's one way it'll work towards compliance. And with IoT technology, really where it's going to help you is on tracking the performance to ensure your product or your system is complying. So one example of that would be related to the combustible dust hazards. And as Renee told us earlier, there are a lot of health and safety, or a lot of combustible dust standards throughout the world, and it can be difficult to understand which one applies to me and what I really need to do in order to be compliant. And so again, things that are measured, like the operation of a isolation valve. One of the requirements within the NFPA standards is that device has to be inspected and monitored on a regular basis. So with an IoT system, you're able to do that in a proactive way and ensure that that device is actually protecting and doing what it's designed to do. Another example may be air quality. So a lot of these systems that we sell will collect the dust, and then they're just going to blow clean air outside. Well, even with the most efficient filters, you're going to still get some level of emissions, that you're out. And in a lot of countries and in a lot of places, you have to report that level of emissions. So putting a sensor on the device to monitor that level and regularly report it can help automate that process. So what all these things do is really try to save you time and money. Compliance is expensive. The maintenance and service of the products to make sure they're compliant is expensive. So if you can help with automate that and tracking that on a regular basis, and even having the system, acting as an alert system for you, that's going to save money, and it's going to help your line stay compliant.
How can IoT technology enhance the maintenance and operation of the equipment?
So the maintenance and operation of dust collection systems it's usually not a very fun task. It's dirty, and typically, you don't have a lot of volunteers to go out and change filters or really kind of look at these types of devices. And relate that to something that's at your house. We mentioned the vacuum cleaner earlier. Just like when you're changing that filter or emptying that filter on your vacuum cleaner, it causes a mess. So you don't want to do it as often and as frequently. So what IoT technology can do is really help automate and improve that process so it can be done in a bit more of a controlled way. So instead of a maintenance or a service department having to walk outside, across a factory floor and maybe climb up on a mezzanine or climb up on the roof of a building to inspect something, You can have a sensor that can do that automatically, where you can, with any connected device around the world, you're going to be able to log in and actually see the performance on that. Another example would be, as we're collecting this dust, it falls into collection bins, or we have to handle that dust in a safe way. So one of the tasks that's very common in dust collection systems is to empty the dust bin, and you have to know how much is in there in order to do it. So oftentimes that gets left undone. Somebody doesn't want to do it. They get busy doing something else. And so it overflows, and then it creates a huge mess that takes time away from people and could even potentially shut the production line down for a period of time. So what the sensors can do is tell you when you have to change it, even alert you a week before it needs change based upon how much dust you've generated in your process over the last couple weeks or so. And this way you're going to be able to do that again in a much more controlled way. And the whole idea behind IoT is really to get to the point where you can leverage that data, analyze it, the data that you're collecting, analyze it, and try to come up with a way to begin predicting what's going to happen with the product. So before a critical component fails, or before a motor stops working, or whatever the filters need change, whatever the case may be, you're going to be able to do something proactively with that, saving you time and money.
You described this technology as future-proof. What does that mean, and what would a next generation filter look like?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think a lot of our customers don't understand how IoT is going to impact their business. But IoT is often referred to as the fourth industrial revolution. And it's going to change everything maybe over the next 5 years, 10 years. Nobody really knows how long it's going to take. But the idea of machinery being connected, and factories becoming more automated and having more sensors, and machines talking to other machines, and taking over the world and taking over a factory is coming, right? And our filtration devices are really no different than that. So what we mean by future-proof when we call some of our products and systems that is simply that we're prepared for that future. We're offering them a set of a product that performs well now, but it's set for as the world evolves and as industry evolves over the coming years, as more and more people adopt IoT products and machinery. I think some of the other the other ways, or the other reasons we call it future-proof is, just like on your phone, you get updates pushed out every couple weeks. When they decide to improve something, they correct a bug within the software or the programming. We're able to do the same thing with the controls on our products. So if you are connected, as we learn, as we grow, as we improve the performance of our products, we're going to be able to push out most of that updates, or most of those updates, to our customers. So they're buying a product that's also going to continue to improve operation over time. So that's what we mean by future-proof.
It really sounds like you have a lot going on in Nederman. So many new and promising innovations that I'm sure will aid your customers in many ways. I can easily see how both the smart filter solution and nanotechnology will benefit the workers and at the same time save costs. I think it would also be very valuable for the viewers to see the IoT filter solution in action. Would it be possible to get a demo?
I would love to. So when you first log into Insight, you're taken to a global map. So and any Insight connected filter that's associated with your account will be visible on this map and represented by a pin, located, throughout the world. So if you have multiple sites located in the US and in Europe, or in multiple countries within Europe, you're able to kind of zoom in and get an overview of what's going on with all of your connected systems. If you click on an individual pin, you'll be able, a dialog box pops up, and you're able to quickly go to a site overview. which is going to zoom in and actually show you the specific facility and where that dust collector is located. So if you have multiple collectors within a facility, it's kind of a quick way to go through and make sure you're looking at the right one, or take a look at the status of each collector quickly. You also notice within each pin, there are indicator boxes that are either flashing or there's blank. So this is an indication of status on any kind of alarms, notifications, or warnings that are currently occurring within the system. So if we scroll in a bit and click on a different one here, on this particular one and in these dialog boxes, you're able to look at individual alarms, red meaning critical, the yellow here, the darker yellow meaning warnings, and then these are more notifications or alerts. So you can kind of quickly see if there's any areas where you need to focus on or dig a little bit deeper. So then if you click on the site details, that's what's going to take you to the system dashboard, and it's going to allow you to understand a bit more about what's going on with that particular dust collection system. And just kind of a quick tour of the overall dashboard system. So over here we have a kind of a quick launch ribbon. It's going to give you a system overview. You can quickly get to the alarm center. You can get to dashboards. And one nice thing about the Nederman Insight platform is that there isn't just one out-of-the-box dashboard or one size fits all for all customers. We understand systems are different, operations are different, even individual users are different. Let's pop back to the dashboard and kind of go through a tour of that. So within the top of the dashboards, typically we're going to provide a summary of what's going on with the system. And over here on the left side, this is a arrangement where, first we're looking at the overall system status. Is it running? What's the cleaning system operating at? Then we're going through kind of a progression of each critical component that we are tracking, and then any associated metrics or key parameters that we want to track as well. And these parameters are color coded as well, where if they're green and running nominally, they're going to be presented that way. If they're in a warning status, they're going to be displayed as yellow, and if it's something critical, it's red. So again, you can quickly understand where some potential issues are, or if things are running and operating as expected. A couple of things to note here. So, some of the things we talked about earlier today within the Clean Air event, the ability to monitor, emissions and particulate. In a lot of cases, that's, you need to generate those reports for reporting to local government agencies. So that's something that Insight can track. You're also looking at the safety devices. So we talked a lot about the criticality of combustible dust devices. So here we can see we're tracking that device. It's active. It's actively protecting the system from or if an explosion occurs. Here we can go to time to service and the hours of operation. So if we keep going through here, now here's the alarm log. And this is going to give you a list of the alarms during the selected time. And again, these alarms and warnings, they're things that you may want to check on, right? It can help you schedule preventative maintenance. It can help you look at what, any kind of critical things to try to see if there's ways to optimize or improve the operation, or to kind of better understand, how we can work together to optimize the system. Then over here, we provide a summary of the system. And as we scroll down through the dashboard, we see a bit more detailed information. So for each critical component, we create what we call a widget. And these widgets are actually going to monitor, again, critical performance parameters. So, motor RPM, how much power is it consuming? What's the vibration level on the motor? What's the status? And then we're actually going to plot those key metrics versus time. And you're able to hover over that data, so you're actually able to see, that exact value that's being measured versus a timestamp. So if there's a problem, if there's an event, you're able to kind of rewind and go back in time to see what happened on all these components leading up to that critical event. And then again, so we walk through that, and each critical component, is presented in its own unique way, which makes the most sense. So here, filter pressure drop, the airflow. So, we're tracking all those critical parameters to ensure proper operation. And then we're even tracking down here, what's going on with the cleaning fans, the dust handling system with the chain conveyor, the rotor airlock, and make sure that all of them are operating properly. They're turning at the correct speed in order to evacuate all the dust. So, for this particular product, these are the key components that we are tracking. That's the dashboard. You can kind of see the power behind it, but also kind of the easy to digest and, kind of the ways that you can use this information to quickly check, how things are operating with the system. So if we go back over here to our shortcut menu, in our alarm center, we're able to go through and look at active alarms, alarms that have been suppressed or dealt with in the past, and then a complete historical record of all the alarms that happen within the system. And again, it's a good way to just kind of look at it. What maintenance areas do I need to focus on? What do I need to talk to Nederman about? How do I get my system operating in a more optimal way? And then finally, the report section here. So all of this information is logged, and we're able to export reports out on a regular basis. And so if I click on this, you can see this one's called the Nederman 30-day filter report. So what this is going to do is, okay, how many hours did I operate the system over in the last 30 days? When is my next service interval? I'm sorry, this is the total operation for the system. And then how many hours did I operate during that time interval? And then, it shows me that same data that we're seeing on the dashboard, so we can get this delivered to our inbox on a weekly basis, a daily basis, a monthly basis, whatever makes the most sense. And we're able to export this out. And these are the reports, again, that can be customized, configured, and even configured in a way that's acceptable to submit to health and safety organizations or government institutions. Yeah, so that's a very, very quick tour of Nederman Insight. We hope you found it informative. We hope you see the power behind it and how it can really empower users, and you can work with Nederman in order to really focus on clean air and energy savings and reliability, and making sure that you're staying as productive as you possibly can, saving you time and money with maintenance and other aspects of that, and really emphasizing the importance of clean air within your facility. So we appreciate you taking the time to watch the demo, and look forward to talking to you more about these solutions in the breakout sessions. Thanks, and have a great day.
Now that concludes our first session, and I would really like to thank all of the speakers who attended today, and of course, all of you who have listened in online. I believe we've gained a lot of insight from Nederman that will be valuable for years to come. Clean air is clearly an important topic for all of us, regardless if we're looking at it from a worker's perspective or from a global health perspective. Filter technologies are evolving as we speak, and I do believe it's fair to say that new innovations within nanotechnology and IoT will greatly improve on work-life safety going forward. But before we wrap up, I would also like to encourage you all to join the online group or one-on-one chats that are available directly after the streaming session has ended. Local representatives from your market will be online and ready to discuss relevant topics and answer any questions you might have. So make sure to join in. And by that, on behalf of Nederman, I would like to once again thank all the speakers and all of you who have tuned in online for a great session. Have a fantastic clean air day, and speak to you all soon. Bye.